Hello, this is Liam from Liam's Library. I hope you've been reading some good books and looking after one another. This is like the sixth time I've tried to do this review today. I knock off work in like 45 minutes, and customers just keep coming in and yarning and like just hanging out, right? And I don't mind like doing a review while they're walking around the shop, but today it's like I just keep stopping it every time they do. So this is my last take. This will be the one I upload. Today I wanted to do a review. I didn't know what I was going to review though, so I went over to my favourite little corner over there, my favourite little Stephen King corner, and I thought I'd just pick a short story, right? Something that I've read lots of times, and something that I know I can talk about without having to have read it last night. So I picked up Everything's Eventual by Stephen King. Sorry about the backwards, it's because I'm crammed into the office, I've explained this before. But Everything's Eventual came out in 2007. It is his fourth short story collection. And it was a big gap between his third collection and his fourth collection. So when this came out, it was a big deal to me. I was like, wicked. Short stories. It's going to be full of scary stuff. I can't wait for this. The first two stories in it didn't wow me. Alright, The Man in the Black Suit and Autopsy Room 4. It was like, meh. Didn't blow me away. Like, the short stories from Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Night Shift, Skeleton Crew. Then we had this. So I kept reading. I found a short story in here called 1408, which is the cover. See, it's since become a movie. Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, and it's actually really good horror movie. And a really good short story. But I'm not here to talk about 1408. I'm here to talk about the story after 1408. It's called Riding the Bullet, right? It's only a short story. Originally, it wasn't published in this. Originally, it was published as Stephen King's very... Listen to this bass just slamming up and down the main street out there. Annoying me. It was originally published as an ebook. Stephen King's first ebook, I'm pretty sure. So, you couldn't buy it unless you bought it online. I never bought it online. I had to wait for this to come out. When it came out, I didn't buy it for Riding the Bullet, but I was like, oh, hey, look, Riding the Bullet's in here. Cool. When I first read it... I was in Broome, I think. Nah, that can't be right. Anyway, when I was younger. And I liked it. I really liked it. I didn't like it as much as 1408, but the story, Riding the Bullet, it's a cool horror story. To me, it's a ghost story. Now, Stephen King has all these little forewords at the start of this book where he talks about what inspired him to write the story. It's either before the story or after the story, whatever suits. With Riding the Bullet, he says that this is a story he wrote, and he's written a couple, to deal with the upcoming death of his mother, and how people have to, deal with, the reality that a loved one might be passing away. This kind of means a bit to me at the moment, as my pop is on his way out, and he means so much to me. I haven't read the story recently, but I've read Riding the Bullet about 7 or 8 times. To me, it was just a creepy ghost story, and a really cool one. It reminded me of a story called Nona, and just because it has hitchhiking scenes, right? So it's about this young person. I'm not going to double check because, this is just all off the top of my head from when I read it and how it made me feel. I'm not going to Google facts. I'm not going to sit here and smash the book out, then just read, talk to you straight away. So it's about this young fella whose mum has had a stroke in a restaurant. A family member rings him up and says, listen, you've got to get to the hospital. Strong possibility she's on her way out. He's got school, but he ditches school. He's got no way to get there. He's got no money. So he gets out on the highway and puts his thumb out and starts hitchhiking to get to the hospital where his mother is. And he really wants to get there before she dies. It's a big deal to him, of course it is. And he gets a few rides here and there, and he's got like 120 miles to cover, right? And it starts getting dark. And he gets picked up by this old man. Now, this isn't the story, but I have to talk about this scene, because this old guy, right, he's this happy, nice, jovial old man, but he's got this smelly old car that smells a bit like piss, and, this old man's like, where you going, mate? I'll take you as far as this, and rah, 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 and bloody, you shouldn't be hitchhiking out here, it gets dangerous, and he's very abrupt, and he's kind of in this young fella's face, and he's All right, so this is going to be a bit of a yucky review because this old fella's just constantly like scratching at his groin, like gripping it and talking really over the top. And this character, and he's got yellowed teeth, and this is when the moon's in the sky and the sun has just gone down, and our protagonist is very happy this guy's giving him a lift so far, but the smell in the car and how this guy's acting, it's, you know, he's just a creepy old fella. It doesn't mean no harm, but he's a bit unnerving, and so they keep going, and then they're driving along, and this big yellow moon is in the sky, and the old man like says something creepy like, you know, a moon like that has a name, and you wish upon a moon like that. And this main character, I'm not even going to look his name up, right? Because I remember the name of the ghost in the story. I don't remember the name of the main character. It's not important. Read it for yourself. But the old man says, like, you know, you wish upon a moon like that. The main character's like, I've never heard anyone say, like, wish upon the moon. It just sounds creepy. It sounds all kinds of wrong. And then, like, sort of, they pull up. It's you know, it's time for the ride to stop. And our main character's just like, well, thanks for the ride, mister. And then the old guy just kind of grabs his hand and says, I'll take you all the way. Like, I'll take you all the way to the hospital, man. It's your mum, you know. I'll drop you off right at the doors. I don't care about what I have to do, you know. Like, it's important, you know. And he's gripping at his crotch, and he's like, something kind of breaks in there. And it's just the smell of the thing in the car and the moon in the sky. And it's just written so surreal and so Stephen King and so creepy in that bit. You know, you're reading the book like, fuck is going on, and it's very intense and it's very scary. You know, you're reading a horror novel, yet nothing horror novels actually really happened yet. But he gets out the car and he's like, he feels like running away from this old fella, and the old fella lets him go. Off he goes, and then he starts walking down this road, and it's full dark now. And he starts walking down this misty, foggy road, and no cars are coming. And he thinks, shit, maybe I should have got a lift all the way to the hospital with that creepy old guy, because now I'm on my own. And he starts walking past a graveyard, and it's a creepy-ass graveyard. And, like, something makes him go into the graveyard. Can't remember what, but he goes into the cemetery. And he has a look at this gravestone. Don't know why he picks this one. I really don't. Excuse me. But the name on the gravestone says George Staub, right? And like, either he passes out there, or he trips over and hits his head because like he hears a noise or something. But next thing you know, he's leaving the cemetery, and he's got his thumb back out, right? And he's ready to ride the road again, right? And get himself a lift. And this pickup truck comes along and picks him up. And his new driver, he gets in this car. His new driver is a young man named George Staub. Hold on. And we're back. Sorry about that. Apparently I had my bookshop sign so far out on the sidewalk, people were tripping over it. And the Shire doesn't like that. Who cares? Back to this story, right? Back to this story. Okay, so, right, he gets picked up by this man in a pickup truck. And his driver is the late George Staub. Right, this man has a big slit across his neck, and he's dead. A dead man has picked up our main character. A dead man fresh from that cemetery he just visited. Turns out this guy's name is George Staub, and he has a little badge pinned to his shirt, and it says, I rode the bullet. Right, now the bullet is a roller coaster from a theme park nearby. And this character, turns out his name is George Staub. The name on the gravestone that our main character had a look at, this character is he died in a car accident, right? I'm pretty sure he died in a car accident, and he's smoking, and all the smoke's coming out of his cut throat, and or he killed himself, or, you know, I should have looked into that, but I've read it, but I haven't read it for a couple of years, right? I just know the premise. But George is dead, right? And this guy's, there's no getting out of the car. And George is driving along, and this character's like, oh God, do I act like I know this guy's dead? Like, or do I just sit there and pretend like I'm just going to get out of this car? Like, this guy's not going to let me out of the car. But then George starts to talk. And George tells him, he knows that his mother is dying. He's like, I know where I'm taking you. You're going to the hospital, but bad news, buddy. Your mum's already dead. She died like an hour ago. She didn't make it, man. And you know what? You weren't there. And he's just like, no, my mum can't be dead. And he's like, yep, she is, man. She's dead. Now let me tell you a story. And he starts telling him a story about how he was at this theme park and he rode the bullet. Man, he rode that fucker 4 times. And he says that like it's just like it's the theme of the book. Like, man, I rode that fucker 4 fucking times. Like, super cool. This George Staub guy's just a maniac with his bloody zip tie neck going on, smoke pouring out of it, smoking cigarette after cigarette, just getting faster and faster as he's driving our main character down this creepy mist-filled road. Gets nuts, right? Gets so nuts. Then George Staub, the dead guy, asks our main character, like, what, do you want your mum to live? Like, it's either your life or your mum's life. Like, he says, like, I can pick for you. Either you die right now in this car with me, or I'll let your mum live. And the kid, sorry, this is spoilers all the way. Spoilers, whatever. You just haven't been mad at me yet, so, you know, if you've actually watched this, you might be mad. Sorry. But yeah, he's like, it's either you or your mum. And he just thinks it's real for a minute, and he just goes, all right, my mum was old, she's had a stroke anyway, pick my mum, take my mum, I don't want to die. And then he wakes up in the cemetery. He was never in that car, but he wakes up right at George Staub's gravestone, and eventually he gets to the hospital. And I'm not going to tell you the ending. I'm not, because that's the whole point. But he picked his lone life over his elderly mother's. And the story for me is the hitchhiking, the old man, and the dead body that gives him a lift, riding the bullet. Apparently in America, when you go hitchhiking, it's like you ride the thumb. So the whole ride the bullet angle, riding that roller coaster, riding that life and death thing. Man, I rode that fucker 4 fucking times. The whole life and death, going to see if his mother's alive or dead. It's a very intense story. It's a lot of fun. You can read it in one sitting really quick. There is a movie, and George Staub, the dead guy, is played by David Arquette. And I'm not the biggest David Arquette fan. There are a lot more talented Arquettes out there. But he does a good George Staub with the smoke pissing out of his neck and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's in Everything's Eventual. It's the second last story. It's called Riding the Bullet. You can find it. It was published in 2007, but it was published a little bit before that online as an ebook. Don't even know if you can still buy it as an ebook these days. What isn't an ebook? But back then it was like a novelty. So yeah, read the short story, watch the movie, tune in next week. I don't know what I'm going to review. I really should review The Sundog. I keep putting it off, but I'm just not really that interested in reviewing it. I kind of want to review The Regulators, sequel to Desperation, publishes Richard Bachman. So I might actually get around to that next week. Stay tuned. Read some really good books. Take care of one another. Hit subscribe. If you want me to review something, let me know. Yeah, take care. Don't take any shit from anybody. Bye-bye.